go on one of these journeys.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Awaken Hidden Truth and good morning or good evening to you, Scott.
Good morning, Perry, and good morning to all of you who will be finding this excursion beyond Earth radio show, Awaken Hidden Truth stuff that Perry started. And I think I've been a regular guest on this show for the purpose of assisting beings on Earth to begin to recover and remember who they are. And it's not the physical body they see in a mirror every morning. And to get disclosure of life out in the universe and in other dimensions openly completed on planet Earth. Leaders on Earth today, classified in some other ones, very few, but the very top ones, know that they cannot continue to go out in space in our solar system and Space Force or any other thing. The way this governments are run here, the way religions are, people at each other's throats, we cannot expect that the more advanced races out there, which are quite beyond what we are on Earth, human and otherwise, are going to tolerate us coming out there with all that kind of garbage, being brought aboard ships, going out in the stars to plant American or Soviet or Russian rather, or Chinese flags on alien soil and moons because space is already occupied and overseen by other world systems and races. And we're not going to be just doing what we want out there willy-nilly. We're not going to be able to take nuclear weapons and radiation out in space past a few worlds out in our solar system because they aren't going to tolerate it. And they know that. They've been told that. They know they have to disclose, or just, let's just say they're being given the time when they're out of their bodies at night. Beings and friends of mine meet with them and help them to understand how they're making decisions on Earth based on subconscious terror. And that means all their decisions are incorrect. And they create backlashes in time space. And then all that money they throw in one direction has to have more money thrown at to fix what didn't work like they thought it did. And that's repetitive. And it's not going to stop until the beings that are running things on Earth today recover enough of who they are to know they're not their bodies. It isn't about making money or piling up goods or beating out your neighbor. It's not about beating other countries. It's got nothing to do with any of that, why they're alive on planet Earth. It's way, way bigger than that. It's really about recovering who they once knew they were, co-creating with source energy, zero-point toroidal energy, which is living conscious energy, and gaining great advances by knowing how to work in harmony with it. This is all this is about. Because people keep thinking, what is spirituality and what's psychic and what's telepathic and who's right and who's wrong. People on Earth have not been exposed, deliberately kept from being exposed to other races and technologies from other worlds. Some of it's to protect religions and religious indoctrination, much of which was started and supported by tyrant rulers or emperors on Earth to control people and to keep them less intelligent and and more ignorant of what the rulers themselves understood. Because many of the dictators on Earth in the past knew about extraterrestrials. They didn't want the people to know. This is not new. Today, we're in a world where we can no longer move forward as a planetary culture or survive ecologically. With the consciousness that's running things today on Earth, this world will end. You won't need a nuclear war to do it. These misdirection of funds and people that's going on worldwide competition for space, competition, period. We're not going to be able to take those attitudes out there among the stars and meet other more advanced races who would give us this advanced technology and help us transform the Earth at no charge. What are they going to meet up with some Space Force people that say, hey, we'll give you a bunch of gold, and if you give us some of this technology? It's never going to happen. And they don't care about gold, and they don't use any dollars or money from Earth. You can't buy anything from them with any of it. It's pointless. It's silly. It's childish. Somewhere people on Earth have gotten this misdirected subconscious program that they're superior in the universe and maybe we're the only life here. That's what they tell the people, but the people in power know better. And they've known better for a long time. It's the difficult thing when you've got countries on Earth that can acquire weapons that the US or other countries will sell them, where you can train people who eventually become terrorists, who backfires on you, because anything done in a negative way with negative imagination and emotion creates equal but opposite reactions in space-time. In that 0.0 energy out there in space that everything floats in is a living force. It is not nuclear, but it is a power that co-creates with what we imagine in it, good or bad or both. When more advanced races understand this, they begin to learn how to work with it. And then it reveals more secrets to them about jumping from here to another galaxy in an hour, things like this. You cannot get around this. One energy out there that they used to think was dark matter, that void in space is packed full of a white golden light of energy that you can see when you're out of your body, but human eyes can't see into that frequency. So it appears black, the background of space. It isn't. And it's not nuclear. It's not atomic. You can't put negative emotions, imaginations, and store it in the void of space. There's nowhere to store it. That's on a molecular level. That's DNA. That's thought forms and wavelengths and frequencies relative to the dimensions where people have bodies. It doesn't go out there. All that negative stuff people do stays in the atmospheres of Earth, bouncing off the ionosphere just like radio waves do to get around the curvature of the Earth. When people begin to understand this, they begin to understand that there is a correct way to use the imagination, and there's a way to bugger themselves up. The ecology of their whole planet. There's no sense to a planet of people not getting rid of their sewage in some other more advanced way than dumping it in rivers to the ocean. There's no sense in polluting one's atmosphere with toxins or blowing up nuclear bombs in it to radiate the whole frickin' planet. There's no sense to burning down the equatorial rainforests that can take the carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere and leave us suffocating. What good is an ocean that produces 70% of the oxygen if you don't have any plants to filter out the CO2 we breathe? It just goes on the upper atmosphere and blocks the sunlight. That's what global warming is. And that leads to freezing. That leads to ice ages. You can't avoid this stuff and ignore it until it's too late. You can't keep using fossil fuel when there's a limited supply and it pollutes everything. The solar and other alternative energies have been here for some time, and it's the people that know it's here have a heck of a time getting it released to the public. Too many special interests and lobbyists and greed, corruption between countries and within countries. You can't take that kind of consciousness, that negative creating stuff, out into the universe and mix it up with races who will not work with it. No matter what we think on Earth. They're not going to let us blow ourselves up, fortunately, for our asses, because doing so would harm far more life than's on this planet because of the way the universe is physically structured, because of the interdimensional doorways that go to other realities that are on Earth, on the oceans, or in the atmosphere of this planet, and on other worlds. They go to other realities, higher dimensions that have these little concentric generators through which one rate of vibration of this one power is transmuted down to a slower rate to support the parallel dimensions of a different matter. That's the way the multiverse works. There are also beings who maintain interdimensional doorways. You can't just go through them any way you want and throw your junk around. You're going to get slapped. You're going to get thrown backwards. Tyrants have been able to use stolen technology to get around parallel dimensions in the physical universe, a few of them. They're not allowed to travel to all of them. Only benevolent races can do that. So you see, tyrant races from other stars and other things are limited in their scope of activity, and they always will be. No negative consciousness ever invents anything ever, anywhere. New things of creation cannot be brought into being through negative imagination and emotion. You can only use or misuse the energy of the universe to annihilate yourself. Thinking that you can abuse it on others all the time and never pay a price. We got COVID on the planet. There's still a lot of radioactive poisoning on this planet just from when they did the nuclear testing in our atmosphere, blowing up these bombs that spread half-life particles that'll radiate and mutate things for 500,000 years, hundreds of them, before these dumbasses finally decide, oh, we're going to destroy ourselves. Better stop that. Nobody tests them above ground anymore. The shock waves from nuclear explosions underground harm the mantle, and they could eventually sink the land masses, causing the ocean to rise new ones in its place. Fortunately, the decision was made not on this Earth, by any means, to cease the repetitive polar flips of this planet that it does every 100,000 years. You have a culture coming from other worlds and build this culture up for 100,000 years. It's wiped out in 24 hours. Gone. Planet survives. People do not. That's one of the things that Earth is unique about, probably why it's been a dumping ground for people being ripped off and stolen from across the galaxy, murdered and stuffed in bodies on Earth with no memory to cover their tracks. And this goes back a very long time. Earth has been under a treaty agreement amongst off-world races for 500,000 years. And it's never been a normal planet as far as having a stable polar system. I don't know of any other worlds that flip their poles except this one, or used to. That's one of the things that had to be stopped, and that was stopped a few years ago permanently, or we would have already been destroyed from a polar flipping of the poles of this planet. That's classified. I mean, I don't want to scare people with that. They knew it. But I can tell you it was nobody on this Earth or the power they have on Earth or classified people that stopped that. That was done from outside this Earth. It should be respected and appreciated. Nobody came in here and took over governments and forced their way on everyone. There are a few races that tried, and they were prevented. And they've constantly been policed and prevented. Or none of us would be alive on this planet now. People on Earth tried to have nuclear war many times, and they were stopped from space, from ships that aren't even from Earth. Or we'd be dead. So that needs to be respected, I think. No one's asking humanity to blindly accept races from other worlds to come here and help us out. But I think that the subconscious fear of the unknown and the subconscious fear that drives the leaders of this planet to make so many wrong decisions so consistently about almost everything, they know this has to change. And they also know they can't do it alone on this Earth. They're going to need help. It's just getting up enough courage to really trust themselves first as beings, and then trust beings from elsewhere. That's really kind of at the crossroads we are at now on Earth, no matter what people think. COVID, as nasty as it's been, killed people. Unfortunately, it's a side effect of nuclear testing in our own atmosphere, and anybody that's got half an ounce of intelligence understands this. You can't do that and not pay a price in space-time for what you did. Those particles will mutate first microscopic life. Get it? And that forces people to have to come up with cures and things to stop these deadly viruses that have spread out of unknown control since nuclear bombs were set off in the atmosphere. That is the fault of governments that were so stupid as to think that was okay to do. Like nothing would happen, no repercussions. This is just not the fact. It's one of the basic laws of physics. You can't put out something that negative and not pay a price. It sets up vibrations in space-time that come right back. It's like a mirror. The way the hue and out in the void of space, the toroidal 0 point energy works, it's like a mirror. It will manifest what we imagine in it, good or bad, positive or negative, or both. But it'll also send back to us what we're doing. We're made to be responsible as beings for what we do here. And we are never going to get out of that. There might be people in government think they're hoodwinking and tricking everybody and lying to them. But deception of any kind is a negative output of energy from the imagination of beings who are doing it. And it affects the omnipresent energy around the entire universe to bring into manifestation something to correct that misguided thinking.
Yes, God, this is very important because we think or we imagine negative. I mean, very often on planet Earth, we don't even know what we imagine or we send out the energy. That's why the Earth is like this too.
Yeah, well, it's like that because people are keeping it like it is.
They have to be
Leaders,
conscious.
not just classified people, not just elected people, religious people, political people, corporations, greed, the struggle to be the best one on the block who gets most of the money while everybody else starves. That kind of consciousness is not tolerated by most races out among the stars where they think they're going. They're not going there. Earth's people, I don't care which government is, are not going to be allowed to play among the stars until we grow up a lot more. We need to be responsible for the way we treat our own world before anybody out there is going to trust us to go play out there. Duh. I mean, big duh. Common sense, much it's just common sense. The problem on Earth is that most people living on Earth today don't even know if there are extraterrestrials or any life anywhere else. Good Lord. God. You can't get any more suppressed in consciousness than people on Earth. They don't even know if there's life on other planets. And they know there's billions of galaxies, billions of stars in each one, and trillions of planets. Are they really that stupid? Really? People that are stuck as theoretical PhDs in science only teach theory. They really don't teach anything else because they don't know any better. There are peers, there are fellows, there are PhDs in classified science, the highest level, that know extraterrestrial exists, and they're not allowed to tell them. It's kind of stupid if you think about it. Any kind of deception and dishonesty maintained as the right thing to do for a country creates negative repercussions in space-time because it is negative and it can't do anything else but create the same thing in return. More advanced races have understood this a long time ago. So they don't do what we do on Earth. Anybody on Earth that wants to really learn how to do this needs to learn from people who have already done it millions of years ago. Earth and its people have the opportunity to step up to bat and go play among the stars, but not the way we are now. There's not a single government, benevolent government running this planet. Who's going to deal with 50 different governments out there among the stars? They don't work like that. They're not like Earth. I try to make this clear to people. I try to make it clear to people in the UFO and disclosure and extraterrestrial communities that they're 20 years or more behind the times. It just means, though they don't know it and should know it and have a right to know it, the little abductions by grays and cow mutilations and all that stuff they're still talking about on radio shows, that was stopped more than 20 years ago. Tyrant beings and bases underground were moved out of the solar system, but not by people on Earth. That should be respected because they didn't know how to get rid of them on Earth once they got in bed with them. It should be respected. So far, no one's come down here and taken over the governments of this planet from other worlds. Some tried and they were stopped. That should be respected. Nobody out there I know amongst a billion different world systems on many different levels, parallel dimensional levels, just in the physical universe alone, are not interested in taking over governments on Earth to save their lives. They would not do it. They don't want that negative bag of garbage. clean it up? No, they want us to clean it up. And that's the right thing to do. People need to recover who they are without having fear that losing a body means the end of their life. That's number one. Because they've never been a body, physical body, a human body, DNA, or any of that. They're running them unconsciously, but they've never been one. That's number one. You get people awake that way, they start making different decisions about everything. And then they get the help of this zero-point or toroidal energy to manifest change in this world. Because as individuals, we don't really, it's an illusion to think we as individuals have power, control power. That's a primary ego trip. Tyrants, they're gone from Earth. They've toppled. It's an illusion because the power that manifests what we imagine is not ours as individuals. We're made of the same energy from the source, but we're a drop in a mighty ocean of it. And when we imagine it, it's that one power that manifests all things. And we have to be humble enough to respect that, not worship it, respect it in each other and in all life on all worlds. If people on Earth want to play among the stars and grow up, they have to be able to respect the life that's out there. There is no shortcut getting around this, and there never will be. We must pass through this door on Earth. That's the only choice we have now. Any other choice is just destructive. What's the point of that? You might as well just blow the place up now. Forget it. So I try to make this clear because I'm just this guy in California putting out these little videos, these little radio shows with you, Perry, and in other ways, and published books. You know, I'm not here to be a power or to control the world. I'm here as boots on the ground to bring energy here and beings that can help change this place safely without destruction. That's what everybody really wants underneath it all. So that's kind of what I represent being here. Doesn't make me better than anyone else. Doesn't mean anybody should put me on a pedestal or worship me. That's silly. They're made of the same thing as I am, as the spherical energy being they are, people call soul. When you know that, when you really know it, you can't get on an ego trip about it because you know you're not the one power. You can co-create with it and it'll manifest what you co-create. You better make damn well sure it's good, uplifting stuff or you're in trouble. That's the end of that. So I want to make that clear. The hue is the first half of the word human being. Languages on Earth didn't get created here. They could have changed over time. They didn't get created here. They were imported with the beings who were imported to this planet. All the races living on Earth today, believe me, there are classified people that know this. They're not allowed to tell people yet. I am. I'm not under their control. I'm not classified. I don't work for any government on this planet. I'm a world citizen, and I'm a citizen from other worlds. And I'm here as a kind of a representative to assist fellow beings on Earth to save their own world. And they have to be co-creatively involved in that process. There's not going to be any beings coming down here taking over governments. They want us to wake up and change things because we want to. That's pretty cool if you ask me, that such beings so much more advanced have a respect for the potential we are when we remember who we are, when we recover what we've been made to forget before being born on this planet, and we were made to forget it. What people have forgotten can be recovered when they turn off fear, doubt, speculation, theory, debate, all the fearful things, death and dying, losing a body, all that stuff is just subconscious negative programs implanted in people before they were born here in a history they don't remember. The technology to reverse this, or even the spirituality, I'm very hesitant to use that word because people have abused the heck out of it on Earth for selfish personal reasons, is ancient. Space travel, anti-gravity, all ancient. Older than you can imagine. It's not new at all. Turning on genomes that are shut off so you live 1,000 years and telomeres don't shrink, that's peanuts stuff to races out there. Human as well, many of them. If we want to enjoy that kind of existence while we're running physical bodies on Earth, we have to know what we are that isn't a physical body. It's just that simple. It just is. There's no getting around this. So really all it is about recovering what we were made to forget, recovering who we are. Long forgotten over ancient histories, many worlds, many lives. Earth is in a unique place at a critical juncture point between self-annihilation, just the ecology alone would do that. Don't need nuclear war to end life here anymore. Burning down all the rainforests in the equatorial belt will do that all by itself. Bye-bye, people on Earth. Got nothing to filter out carbon dioxide, CO2? Don't care how much oxygen the ocean produces. You'll suffocate. Biggest organ in our body is the skin, which breathes. If you paint it, was a James Bond movie where Goldfinger painted this girl. And even though she could breathe in her lungs, she suffocated because the pores were closed in her entire body. People don't know this yet either. I mean, they don't really understand. We don't just breathe energy through the lungs, not just oxygen. There's much more to it than that. People in other worlds understand the technology of genomes and DNA. Some of the humans I meet and know have 4 strands, not 2. Others more. And they're able to do many more things in lifetimes because their children are raised in such a way that they know who they are that isn't a body when they're kids, and it's encouraged. So when they grow up, even by their governments, their passion for living, going into science and intergalactic travel science and wormhole or portal theory science or interdimensional doorway science and anti-gravitic science and all these sciences that people are barely becoming aware of on Earth. They grow up wanting to go into those things with a passion to create new ways of doing things for the good of their planet and all the planets in an alliance of worlds. And there are hundreds and hundreds of millions of them. So people on Earth need to know this. They need to recover this. Governments on Earth are going to have to work this out and be honest at some point, or they're going to destroy this planet. And they will not be able to help themselves. Can't keep spending money and do what we're doing the way it's going and keep patching it up here and patching it up there. It's just going to go out from under their feet eventually. We are meant to be responsible custodians and caretakers for the worlds we live on, where we're running bodies. We're meant to have harmonious relationship with our ecology and our air and our water and sewage, what we eat. And the consciousness on Earth is animalistic. People do to each other and to animals what animals would never do to each other. The few animals that eat each other on this earth are getting their example from human beings. They're required to follow the higher order on the planet they're on. Think about that lack of responsibility that's going down in people right now. And they wonder why they suffer. They wonder why they get diseased. They wonder why they live such short lives. Why does everybody lie to them all the time? They're toxifying themselves every day with the habits they have and that they grew up with. Do I blame them? No. Do I blame world leaders? No. I'll tell you why I don't throw stones at them, really. Because they are subconsciously driven to do what they do from a subconscious terror they don't even know is there. They can't help it. They are going to require the assistance of fellow beings, not of this world, if we're going to get through this. That is the bottom line now. There is no getting around this. Many people are doing great things to try to create electric cars and, get out in space and all this, and that's great. But we really need to stop polluting the air we breathe. That should be number one. Before we try to go out in space with perverted consciousnesses and mix it up with beings who don't have them that way and aren't like that. We need to clean up our own planet and treat it properly. Remember who we are. People's habits of how they eat and what they do would simply drop away. The spherical being doesn't desire to do what beings running bodies unconsciously, the bodies desire to do to each other, to animal life, to just thoughtlessly slaughter and kill and raise things. There's a karmic repercussion in space-time for doing that. If people think there isn't, they're blind, ignorant, backward, and unconscious because they don't accept responsibility for the repercussions for what they do. And they're easy to control by tyrants that way. We cannot no longer be this way. Earth is at a point where it's beginning to do space travel. It is not the first time cultures on this planet have developed space travel. There have been nuclear wars on this planet going back many millions of years. That's not new either. Beings like us have been able to live on this planet for 65 million years, since the dinosaurs were deliberately made extinct. And what's gone on since then in galactic affairs and intergalactic affairs, a war that happened 500,000 years ago, people on Earth have no idea anymore about it. But here's the thing. All of them, at one time or another, were involved out there in other worlds, in other forms, among the stars. And they don't remember. So they think this is their only life. How much can you learn about anything in one little lifetime on Earth? There's nobody teaching in any university who can teach anybody to be really bright and intelligent and wise in a lifetime on Earth. That brain that people grow up with, that body in one life, doesn't have in it the imagination or awareness of the vast multidimensional nature and what's in it. The being that floats above or directs bodies that people have forgotten on Earth has the capability to look into the universe and know things with certainty. To look into the universe, connect with other beings and the one energy in it telepathically and explore. That's why we do these radio shows, to put it out in the world, at least on YouTube, so someone can find them when they're ready and begin to wake up. I'm not the only one involved in this. There are vast numbers of people I work with, not from this earth, that are involved in a movement of energy moving through our solar system that is unavoidable to help change Earth without it going up in smoke. That's basically it. Things have changed out among the stars amongst more advanced cultures that they didn't expect or see coming. Things that brought them into a consciousness of being responsible for races, younger maybe, that no longer really have free will but think they do. A responsibility that says we have a responsibility to help them recover real free will so they can choose properly. That's an intervention that they really have a right to do for one reason. If Earth destroys itself, especially in some weapon type technology, nuclear, it would harm trillions of other life in parallel dimensions that are vulnerable to such explosions and radiation that people on Earth don't really know exist in profuse numbers around the planet's surface, under the water or in the atmosphere, even outside Earth's atmosphere. The universe is connected through doorways from this dimension to higher realities. And those openings, those doorways, are concentric energy generators. They transmute a faster molecular time rate of one plane. The energy that runs through it is one energy. And they lower that one energy down to the next plane to support it. So you got this one parallel dimension in space with billions of galaxies in it. There's 144 levels of that. There's life in all of it. The more advanced races move between all that. It's pretty mind-boggling to someone on Earth to understand this. And then you get into what's called the astral level, So they don't take their ships to. And that's got its own technological advancements and another bunch of levels. And there are doorways between each of these going up these other realities. There's one energy in the universe that is behind all matter, all worlds, all galaxies, that float in it and create gravitational suspension in this field of energy. That field of energy is not nuclear. You're not going to find atoms in it, and protons and electrons and neutrons, maybe in bits of matter in it. But think about this. The distance between two stars, all the space in there between them, and all that black space between all the stars of one galaxy, and then all the distance of black space between the next galaxy, and all that black space between billions of them is not nuclear. It is energy, but that's what you would call zero point or toroidal energy, the energy of the universe. People call it divine spirit and pray to it. It links to the highest prime creator or source directly. And we're made of that same energy as individual beings. So when people recover who they are, they can communicate with what's right to do, and they just know. And they operate more normally as beings. Things change, genetics change, everything changes then. So what I'm saying about Earth's potential to change and what it will become will not be new in the universe. The way they're going about it now is new, different. In the past, they just stand by and let the poles flip, everybody get wiped out. Some people will be taken off in ships. That's happened before many times. That's the old way. The old way doesn't work. Because when beings are brought back and they still get put here with subconscious misdirecting consciousness, subconscious minds, they'll end up destroying the planet or trying to all over again. So it doesn't work. So the way things are being done now out among the stars that's moving in this direction is unavoidable. And Earth's next. That's the best way I've had putting it. When I'm speaking with all of you, I'm also in communication with other beings. Very advanced, master teachers, wondrous beings, but they don't put themselves on a pedestal, and they would not tolerate any of you worshiping them in the first place. Don't expect them to come down and land in a ship and have you put them on a pedestal, because their energy is so much higher, and it is. They just won't land in the first place. Think about what I said. There'd be no point or purpose to them landing, picking anybody up for a spaceship ride when they're so full of negativity and anger and hate and bias and prejudice and nonsense and numbskull thinking, and they don't even know life exists in other worlds. It's not working on all thrusters, is it? Then how would a person that wants that expect to be able to communicate properly with such beings when they're all full of that stuff? Higher energy would stimulate that stuff to turn on and play in their nervous system. And then it'd be like talking to a drunk. There's nobody home, you can't communicate till all those programs stop running. It's very important people come to understand this for their own sake on Earth. Not just for the sake of physical bodies, for the sake of who they are as a being they've long forgotten. I will leave everybody with that. And with your permission, Perry, unless you'd like to have a few questions or something answered now, or
no, I'm fine.
Okay, because I want to make sure I put that out there. As you know, we do these shows and then I'm recording them, then they're sent over to Perry. She puts them up on her YouTube channel, Awaken Hidden Truth. And they're there for people to find for their uplifting benefit. That's really why we do it. Don't really care whether you believe me or not. Could give a hoot. I do it anyway, regardless of what any one of you might think at the moment, because I know your thinking's going to change in quite unexpected, dramatic ways for your benefit. So I'll leave it with that. I begin these journeys by sending out the hue. I work with the hue because it is not and never was created on this earth. It is not native to planet Earth. It is a way for people with vocal cords and beings that simply can imagine it without vocal cords, beings that can feel it, beings that are telepathic, beings that have photographic memories, many of them do off-world. It's a way for them to trigger a particular action to take place in the pineal gland in the center of the brain, human brain on Earth. It opens a doorway, a protected doorway, and it allows people to connect with eventually, when they're not so terrified, with beings who can help them unravel this tight knot of amnesia they're suffering from. Most of the people on Earth will meet with these beings first when they're out of their bodies at night, when their body's asleep. And yes, everybody, when they put their body to sleep, leaves that body. They're not taught that on this earth from childhood. It's not set up in the subconscious for that new body and brain. So when they become adults, they have no reality on it. They don't use their higher faculties because they've been taught to use them. They don't even know they're there. They listen to the peers around themselves, their school, their teachers, the governments, and they think, well, is there life on other planets? We don't know. That is the height of ignorance. Doesn't mean people are unintelligent. It means they're ignoring something they know because they're in fear of knowing it. They're afraid of recovering much of the memory that's been suppressed in them for many reasons. And that fear, at some point, must be given up by each individual in favor of something greater and grander. All the races on Earth did not originate on this planet that are represented here in different cultures. Asian, oval eyes, slanted eyes, African American, what they call, or the black people, the black race, or they're really not black, but darker skin, whether it's Arabic or Semitic or Aboriginal or American Indian or Caucasian or any numbers of other races, don't want to leave any out, but they were all imported to this planet from other worlds where those body forms different from others developed. And different planetary systems with different suns. Some of them have 3 suns, 2. Many of them more than 1. So you ask, how did all these people get on Earth with no memory of who and what they are? Well, that's a long story in both Earth and solar system history and galactic history. It's their history, your history. So you might as well endeavor to get off your duff and use your imagination properly, learn how to do it to recover who you are. It's your destiny anyway. Might as well do it. The hue is hidden in plain sight on Earth. It didn't originate in the Milky Way galaxy on any planet. It didn't originate in the astral, causal, mental, etheric plane, the void known to certain esoteric groups on Earth. It didn't originate even in the first plane above the void. It originated from a reality far above that in a huge ocean of light and sound. This is all something that each individual being can recover the awareness of, not the brain and body you grew up with. That has to be re-educated to accept higher understanding. And it gets that higher understanding from you, the being, which is spherically shaped. All things in space are round or thereabouts. Suns and moons and planets and stars. And all the things that form the arms of a spiral galaxy with a spherical center are round within those arms. They are made in the image of their creators. The real human being is not a physical human body. In other worlds, it's called atma, what people on Earth call soul without really knowing what it is, where it is, what it looks like, or who they are. They think they're a brain and personality and body that has a soul somewhere tucked away somewhere. They'll find out about later. That's backwards. Completely backwards. They are a spherical being, an energy that is not nuclear, is not destructible, that's running a brain and body. So you see, people on Earth need to flip that completely around. The hue and what it does is it allows each being to telepathically connect directly into the omnipresent zero-point toroidal energy itself, in which all things float. that is not nuclear in nature. Once that's done, the process is irreversible. It means the source behind all life, whatever you might think that is, begins to see you for the first time, and you begin to be trained and changed and brought home to share with the source all the lifetimes of experience you've had to make things better. Why? Because we are comprised of exactly the same energy as the source behind all life itself. In every detail, on a smaller scale, like a drop out of a mighty ocean of the same energy. We move through that one energy through multiple levels and dimensional realities in order to return to that source. Everybody gets out of their body every night when they put it to sleep anyway. They're just not aware or how to bring back awareness of what they do when they wake the body up in the morning. They aren't conditioned to it. They're not trained to it. It doesn't mean that the higher faculties or abilities to do this aren't still there. They're just dormant or suppressed in the artificially created subconscious domain by negative implant programs created by tyrants and put in you at some time in history before you were born here. That should be very clear to everybody. There is a way to reverse this deep subconscious terrorizing amnesia. And it takes working with beings who are very well trained and adept at doing this. You cannot do it on your own on Earth, not as far down in forgetfulness as you've become. It's like the story of a free being hovering above a body, walking down a desert road, and he looks over and his name's Joe, and he looks over and he sees this guy, John, he's known a million years ago. And John's sitting on a rock with his head to his fist like this, he's not moving. And he says, "Hey, John." And John looks up, he's, "Oh, Joe, I haven't seen you." And he said, "Well, hey, John, what are you doing on that rock?" He says, "Well, can't you see I'm a rock?" Joe says, "What do you mean you're a rock?" "Well, I'm a rock. You can see it for yourself." Joe comes up to him and says, "John, you're not a rock. Look." And he mirrors him. He shows him what he is, and he shows him this spherical being hovering above this form. Someone trapped him and convinced him he was a rock, and he's been there for a million years operating a rock. He breaks the illusion, gets him up, and they walk off together, cheerfully having a conversation, knowing who they are. It's kind of like how it is going to be, or is for some people on Earth, and will be for more. So the hue is a complex process when it begins. It creates or causes the pineal gland to secrete serotonin, make melatonin, puts the body in automatic to run it safely and breathe and run blood and heart pumping while you're gone. There's an energy connection to it from the core of your spherical being, atma or soul. And then you go out in the universe and you go to where you're consciously aware of. If you're full of fear and negativity, you go amongst such beings. If you turn that stuff off through the you before you leave, you will have much more profound, wondrous experiences than you can imagine right now. It's up to you. It's up to each one of us. I'll begin the hue, and I'll take it up in higher tone levels because I'm addressing each of you running a form like the physical body on higher dimensions above the physical reality. You're doing it whether you've been made to forget it or not. Those are forms made of matter or nuclear material or DNA energy and all that stuff that's on the different planes at different vibrational levels that have different capabilities. Astral is where all emotion comes from, next major division up from the physical universe. Causal is about cause and effect. Mental has to do with producing things instantly through thought. Etheric is more subconscious. It has to do with being able to sense energy across what some esoteric groups call the void, who believe that there's nothing beyond it and there's nothing in it but this kind of a pale blue energy. Of course, that's not correct. It's a barrier between the lower dimensions of duality, time and space, positive and negative, and energies that aren't of a dual nature, that don't have time and space. They're very different. The only way one can be aware of this truth is to go and experience it for themselves. So this is what these journeys are about. Begin that process. And it will help put your bodies on different planes, at least 5, physical, astral, causal, mental, etheric, to sleep. Whether they're on a beach, sitting down, laying down, they all go to sleep at the same time. So the one real you can withdraw from the physical realities of time and space, cross the void, and go up and remember the source or the higher realities from whence they originally came, billions of years ago. This is all true. The proof in it is when each individual awakens the knowing certainty or knowing direct perception for themselves. I'll begin those tones now. But before I do, first, if you're willing, all of you, if you're sitting down, hopefully you are, lying down with your eyes closed, we turn off the eyes because it shuts off the brain from any outside light coming from matter around you on Earth. It's really turned off. So when you imagine anything from this point onward, which you call daydreaming on Earth, meaning you just imagine you're in a classroom, you imagine being on a beach, you're on another planet, you're in Hawaii, you're in, New Zealand, you're somewhere else, you're on a ski trip, on a camping trip, whatever. That's called what they call daydreaming. The deeper state of that is creative imagination, which is not made up in the human brain. There is no mechanism in a human brain from some cells that can project a camera on a view screen for you to see things. The brain isn't designed to do that at all. When people imagine anything with their eyes closed or with them open, and they see another reality, or they think they're making up some other reality, they're not. They're actually looking into the multiverse as the spherical being running that body without being aware of it any longer. And so they imagine things that exist somewhere, whether it's in the ancient past, potential future, or different dimensional realities. That's how writers write the stuff they do. There's not a writer on earth that ever learned anything in college or university that taught them how to imagine what they put down on paper in movies. And most of them they're not aware where they're getting this from. They didn't learn it on earth in one brain, in one lifetime, in one body. No. This helps people to understand what the creative imagination is. It's something the spherical being running the body is capable of doing because it's telepathic. That's not psychic. It means it doesn't work with the positive and negative streams that run through the lower dimensions of time and space. It works with the one energy behind and supporting everything. And that's from being to being. It's pure. I'll begin these tones now to help you, assist you, and then we'll go on a journey. You. 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 What is the hue? The first sound, not a physical sound, that ever emanated from the source before the lower worlds of time and space were constructed. Every atma, individual being running a body, originated there before the worlds of time and space were made. How old are you? Recovering the answer to that question is the key to opening every door in the multiverse. Imagine someone you love and respect, you're grateful they're in your life, person, place, or thing, but it needs to be genuine, needs to be sincere, needs to be something that makes you smile or feel warm inside. And it's up to the beginning of our journey in the right way. You do, with daydreaming, just like everybody knows what that is. Just idly imagining you're somewhere else when you're on Earth, even looking out of your eyes across the street of the building. Now you can imagine being in another country, at another location on Earth, at a lake, in the mountains, on another planet, in another dimension. There are no limits but the fear that drives people to place limits on themselves. And that's the only thing that limits the scope and depth and breadth of the imagination itself. So when you imagine something, you're actually seeing it in reality somewhere. Your own subconscious fears can distort what it is you see, especially upon bringing it back to your physical consciousness. So what we're doing is getting the body to go to sleep while you, the awareness you are right now listening to my voice, stays awake. You do it every night anyway. Imagine being above your body near the ceiling. That's easy. You're just on Earth, your eyes are closed. You just imagine being near the ceiling, looking down on your body, being kind in your regard for it. And then look out through the walls into the countryside and city where you live. You can see right through the material walls. And then be in the atmosphere at 10,000 feet, maybe 50,000 feet if you want, in some clouds. Above the clouds even, looking down through openings of the city or the state or the country where you live. And you can see around you, you can see that there are fellow beings, women and men, nearby, kind of guides, the spherical atma hovering above a body form they're showing you that looks to be about 36 years old, standing in the atmosphere, perfectly healthy. And they point to you, and you look out and see there's a body that looks just like you, about 36, flawlessly healthy, standing there, breathing the air. And then you realize you are a spherical being looking at this form. You are showing to these two other beings. It's a way of introducing yourself and showing yourself to them. The body form that's standing in space is not made of matter. It is pure energy. It looks thrilled, can breathe, but it's a way of simply having a way to show each other to each other. Then imagine being in space. That's right, outer space, far beyond the Earth, further than the space shuttle ever flew. You can see the polar ice caps, the oceans, land masses. And from out here, you don't see individual cars or planes or cities or anything. It's just land, oceans, polar ice caps. You can see the barren moon with meteor craters all over it, with no atmosphere to speak of, very little gravity. It does not turn on its axis as it moves around the planet in orbit. It always shows the people of Earth the same side of the moon. As it moves around the planet, what's called the dark side becomes daylight. It's not always dark. We just don't see it. And in the distance, you can see our yellow sun. Now, when you look out from here and you look at that black void of space that you, for all your life, probably thought was black, because when you see photos of the space shuttle images or the Hubble telescope or satellite images of outer space and other galaxies, the energy between all things that float in it appears black to human eyes. The objects they show in those photographs, like galaxies and nebulae, are so colorful, are that way because they're showing you representations of frequencies of light that makes up those galaxies that human eyes can't see. So this black void of space out here in space, when you look at it, is a white golden light filling, packed, all that area you thought was black, and the Earth and the Moon and the Sun, and billions of stars in our galaxy, and the galaxy itself is floating in little gravitational wells, floating in this other energy. You could call toroidal 0 point or the energy of the universe. It's a conscious living energy, but it isn't nuclear at all. And then you can see all the stars in the galaxy perfectly situated there. Surrounding them is this white golden light. And you find yourself up above the Milky Way galaxy, out in the deep void of space, looking down on it from above, the whole thing. And you look to the left and you can see another galaxy off in the distance called Andromeda by us on Earth. And then you can see millions of galaxies extending out in every direction, below, above, to the side, underneath, and out there. In other words, you are now, as an atma, made of a non-nuclear energy, same as the energy of that black void, but quite alive, hovering in this other energy, looking down on galaxies from way up in the void of space. And then we move upward until those galaxies dwindle to a point and vanish. And other galaxies above us begin to appear. We pass through a kind of a layer. And now you're looking on galaxies like the Milky Way and Andromeda, but they're brighter. And we move upward. We go through another kind of transparent energy barrier. And we move through it until we're hovering above the same galaxies again, brighter still. And we're moving up through parallel dimensions in the physical universe. And then you see a vortex open up above us in the white golden void of space, and a circular vortex opens up, surrounded by little tiny cobalt blue stars. It started as one star, and then as it opens up, it turns into millions, and it keeps this doorway open. On the other side of it is a bright, luminous cobalt blue atmosphere. And you can see floating in that distance up there a huge circular island of land, like a small continent. And you can see 6 snow-covered mountain peaks clustered in the center in the distance, and you can see a white luminous beach surrounding their outer circumference of this landmass that's floating only in this bright cobalt blue light. And then we start to move, all of us in a circle, around a friend of mine. His name is Ambassador Torellian. He is human from the Sayres race, not from Earth. And he's showing you his form that he had over 1 billion years ago. And it's human. It's 18 feet tall, slightly blonde, wavy hair, big blue eyes, slightly pointed ears like an elf, Greek tunic like a Greek god. And he's standing there with one hand pointing upward and one hand palm open, pointing downward. And you can see a white golden light, brighter, moving through his hands, through his body, down below and going upward. And that beam from his upward hand goes up through the center of this open whirling vortex, out into and stops above these six white snow-covered mountains. And you suddenly find yourself still hovering in spheres around him. And myself, Perry, even my cat Starlight is an atma who's capable of traveling this far. He goes with me all the time. And there are other beings here. And you begin to look down and you realize you're now above this circular floating landmass, looking down at this vortex that's transparent, this land. You look right through it. And you see us hovering above the Milky Way galaxy and Andromeda, around Turelian, on the other side of that vortex down below. Then the vortex vanishes. And you're looking down at six snow-covered mountain peaks clustered around a round oval valley that has a white, sandy, circular island in the middle of it and a blue-green luminous lake around it. There is floating a foot above a blue lapis lazuli type stone laced with gold, a 4 foot wide in diameter, cobalt blue glass-like sphere, radiant, with a tiny blue star in the center. And there's a shaft of white golden light coming down from above, entering the star and passing below through the bottom of the landmass down into the lower worlds. We are now hovering above the Hue Expansion Ray Academy, and that is located above the fifth reality, which is just below us, and that's above the void known to certain esoteric groups on Earth. We are in an energy that is not space and time, and no negative nature can be brought here whatsoever. That's turned off with your physical body back on Earth. There are beings who see to this. When you look around you now, you can look into the horizon and see way in the distance this luminous white beach surrounding this entire circumference of this land. And in the distance all around is this infinite looking blue, cobalt blue atmosphere, like a deep blue sky on Earth in daytime. But there's nothing else up there. There's no planets, no moons, no stars, no galaxies, just this landmass floating in this supportive blue energy. And when you look at this energy and you can breathe it in because you see that you have a body here too, and it looks to be about 36, physically perfect. And you're smiling. You're very happy to be here. And you're showing that to each other. Perry has one, I have one there, looks to be about 36. And there's the spherical me hovering above it. There's Torelli in the center. He lowers his hands. He puts out his two thumbs, and there's a golden white light that surrounds them, even brighter than the one coming from above down into the crystal sphere, down on the island at the base of the six snow-covered mountain peaks. And he points to the west, north, south, east, and west, and you see, rising up out of the lower plateau of the western one of the six mountains, coming out of a 100-foot or more white marble floor, a blue glass-like tower, smooth as glass, comes up, flat and spherical center, up to a minaret point. That's the Hue Expansion Ray Administration Tower. There are white marble-like, or I don't know what the stone would be, but it's white. And it extends from the outer circumference of the base of the white marble floor, out of which the Hue Expansion Ray Tower, Administration Tower, rises. And they go in every direction. If you take, if you look at like a pizza and divide it in quarters, you've got north, south, east, and west. And out the western roadway at the lower plateau is this tower. And then extending from the outer circumference of that marble floor in every direction, like the spokes of a bicycle tire, are white roadways that go out through botanical paradises in every direction. They enter the mountain range, through tunnels, go into the hollowed out interior of this mountain, which you can see. There's a very powerful shaft of this white golden light roaring up and down constantly in the middle of it. And they enter tunnels on the other side and go all the way in white roadways until they end on the surrounding beach. When you look at the western roadway, you can see there are right turns and left turns off this roadway before it gets way out to the beach out there. And the one on the right, you can see from here, there's a clearing. And there's a very large golden sided, four-sided pyramid with a quartz cap with beautiful plants around it, sitting in this glade. And to the left turn off the white roadway is another botanical paradise that has a tall silo, ivory white silo type building, like a grain silo, standing in it. And then when you look over this entire landmass, you see that there are these teaching facilities to the right and left, extending down each and every one of them. The energy here is pure positive. This is the way you are too. The original you, the one that is not a physical body. Never was, never will be. When you look at how this floating landmass is divided by these roads, you can see that if you look at the northeastern quadrant, northwestern quadrant, southeastern quadrant, or southwestern quadrant, down about a third of the way, 2/3 of the way down the middle of each quadrant is a teaching facility off to the right of the middle roadway. And in it is another one of these floating crystal spheres, but there's no pedestal below this. It just floats a few feet above a round marble floor. Surrounding each of these marble floors are 12 exotic trees. In the one to the northwest, they look like giant weeping willow trees with broad spoon-shaped leaves that are luminous. And there are different type of tree, giant redwoods in another, and other trees in the other three. And when you look at their beings hovering above these trees that look human in different sheer fitting gowns, male and female, long flowing hair, different colored hair, but their facial features are vacant. All you can see is a white energy where their face would be. And if you look into one, you'll see multiple levels of galaxies and planets. And these are beings who are showing you a physical form, but above them is hovering a much larger atma like us, 4 times bigger, twice as many teardrop shapes of faculties within the different layers of the spectrum to a white core. And when you look at yourself now hovering around this crystal sphere, Terrellian standing off to the right, he's still got his 18-foot tall body he's showing you. He's a brighter Atma than we are, but about like us. And then you see yourself hovering there with a physical form that looks to be about 36, made of energy. And you can see that these, what are called silent mentors, are in communication with you in some kind of benevolent way. They're just simply showing you by example how they are. These beings are the mechanics of the multidimensional universe. They actually hold in place and maintain galaxies and planets and moons and suns, different dimensions and the doorways between them, the void and the realms of the upper realities, beyond the void. This is the one place where you can come and meet with them and gain greatly. How? I can't say. It's between you and them and your ability to co-create, to come back into awareness that you're meant to be a co-creator with the source. And the source itself is many dimensions above here. In the source, it's like a huge whirling galaxy, brighter light than physical eyes could ever see. And there's an island floating in the middle of a void in the center of it. And then all these beings encircle it, spherical, very big, very bright, that make up this source, or what more advanced races call prime creator. And in the center of that island is a spherical being like us, but much, much larger, many levels of teardrops in it. It's simply showing us a focus, a nexus where all atmas throughout the multiverse connect together telepathically. This is the supreme source, but not a supreme being that lords itself over anyone. This is the real source. And when you find yourself floating there, you realize you're the same thing. And then you find yourself back on the Hue Expansion Ray Academy. We don't stay there for long. And you can see this blue glass administration dome. We're going inside it. We've done this before, but we're doing it again. And inside it, the size of a football stadium, is a huge flattened kind of, not flattened, but squashed down spherical area. Has a white marble floor and three marble white, like I'm using marble as a word to describe them, three concentric circles of seats. Several thousand men and women and different beings are standing on those levels observing us. And we are hovering inside it now, looking at a fountain on that white marble floor. It looks like white alabaster, scalloped edges. And in the middle of it is a white golden shaft of light roaring up and down. It's filling the bowl and pouring off the edges in an even luminous sheet. Then it vanishes in the floor, down through the shaft of the U expansion ray administration tower, out the bottom of this landmass, and it goes down to the lower worlds through the atma plane below us, the fifth plane, through the void, and then on down back to Earth. So you can see this white golden light moving up and down in this fountain. What you want to do, Torellian's doing it first, you're going to see his physical form disappear and get absorbed into the atma. And he's going to move into this shaft of light. That's what each one of us are doing, moving right inside it. This is the first sound, the missing word in some scriptures back on Earth. And it is here, and you can move into it and gain awareness of the planes above and begin to remember your original nature that is not now, nor has it ever been, a physical body or brain. So float in this. It flows through you easily. There's no pain. It's uplifting and warming, and it brightens the white core of your being. We don't need to stay here long. You move out of it. You find that you have this physical form extended out in front of you as a spherical atma again. There's Torellian. And you look down through this plane and can see right through it, through this cobalt light blue void area that doesn't seem to have anything in it, down through the etheric, mental, causal, astral, next dimension above the physical, to the atmosphere where you began this journey in Earth at 50,000 feet. And then you find yourself hovering near the ceiling where you live, above the body, with its eyes closed, hopefully. The body's asleep. Doesn't matter if you hear a truck go by outside. It's in a trance state we call sleep, a complex process that you put it in every night without knowing consciously how you're doing it. Be kind to yourself. Allow a thin white golden light of this beam to come all the way from the Hue Expansion Ray Academy Tower, the fountain, from you, right to through you, hovering above your body near the ceiling, and into the pineal gland, the center of the brain. And then it begins to glow and move outward, forming a sphere that widens. And as it does, it begins to turn on more of the brain. Instead of using 6 to 10%, you begin to use more of it. You become more intelligent, more wise, more able to comprehend these journeys and how you remember them. They become familiar to you. And that energy moves out in every direction and goes out into the world, and it connects to 3 pyramids now stationed on Earth that are not made of matter. They exist and you could see them or detect them, but you couldn't do anything with them. They're very large. They're on the bottom of 2 of Earth's deepest oceans, the Atlantic and Pacific. And one is inside a hollowed out chamber in a mountain hidden in the Himalaya. And it connects to fountains like that inside each one. And then it's beamed out through in compulsing concentric circles of light, out through the planet, out into space, where the three of them connect to a larger one that's stationed permanently in space, floating there between two stable asteroids in the asteroid field that circles in the orbit of a planet between Mars and Jupiter in our solar system. And then it's beamed outward to those that exist between stars. And then it's beamed upward. That would be enough for our journey today. And if you be kind to your physical form and allow yourself to begin to understand this higher stuff, you're downloading intelligence and the awareness you have as an atma into the brain and body you grew up with in a safe, protected way. Then when you're ready, open your eyes.
Wow. Today is a good chance now for people to meet these 4 quadrants in upper world with the silent ones.
But do that. Somebody said, go ahead. And why not? I mean, people are going to find out eventually. First, basically most people are going to find out that extraterrestrials are quite real in a more elaborate disclosure that's coming our way. And then they're going to recover more of this. So they might as well start working with it now because it's where they came from. Well, the U Expansion Ray Academy itself actually didn't exist even up there past 8 or 9 years ago. It's new. And it's where the mechanics of the universe can meet with master teachers who care about individual beings and begin to evolve in new ways. That's the way I have of putting it. So from up there, people are capable of utilizing their imagination to co-create new ways of doing things on Earth and in the lower worlds of time and space. It has to first be created there, or it will not manifest here. So I want to leave people with that. And you got any questions, Barry?
No, I'd like you to talk about your books for
Oh,
people to.
well, there's actually, I got to do it. People, this is the Sayres agenda. And as you can see, this is a ship a mile long hovering in the ice rings that make up, these are ice, bigger than skyscrapers, some of them, that make up the rings of the planet Saturn in our solar system. This is a galactic emerald star cruiser. It's a mile long, has a bridge control room on this end, another one on the other end. These scout craft that are disc shaped with 3 semi-spheric or hemispheric pods, all with blue anti-gravitic light around them, anti-gravitic, are entering the hull by raising their molecular time rate. Then they go right through the hull, lower their time rate, and land in a hangar bay. There's no open launch bays in this type of ship. It's designed to travel through interdimensional doorways. That's why it's the structure. And this is about what's happening out amongst the stars, amongst other races and beings they didn't expect, of an uplifting nature that is heading our way.
And can I mention like this, Scott, for people to understand about disclosure, maybe this book can guide them to understand how it's going to happen?
It will definitely do that because as people, this is like a doorway opener for people. The way it's written, the way it's constructed is so people can begin to remember. Because when they start to read this and go, they're going to start seeing what I'm describing. And what they need to know is they're really seeing it. They'll know that for themselves at some point. They got to have courage or they're going to be frightened by such things. I don't want them to be. There's a technique section in the back of this book that is a technique involving the hue for the prologue and all 29 chapters, a separate one. And if they're worked with diligently, they can help you work with beings when you're out of body at night to recover more in the morning when you come back. That's basically this book. The Emerald Doorway, which is this book, is the first book of the Parallel Time trilogy. There are 3 written, 1 published. They're published through my company now. The Sayres Agenda was originally published through another company, and then that contract ran out, and I assumed all the responsibility, and I'm publishing these with new covers created by someone I hired with my supervision, very close, to make sure these characters are accurate. These are original art. They're not taken from the internet. You can see a master teacher here in a robe, a maroon robe with a quartz staff made of glowing light. It's a gold light. It's quartz, has a cross with an Ankh symbol on top, which is an oval like hole. And how do I do it? Like, it's a like an oval hole, circle with a hole in it. And this is a woman from another planet. It has pale blue skin, black hair. This is a Caucasian male from another planet. They're standing on anti-gravitic discs which lock magnetically their body to it so they can fly through the air with them. It's very ancient. This is his ship hovering in stationary position. This is a little creature named Adren. They're silica-based, not carbon-based, and they developed on that mostly water-covered world on her planet how to levitate and fly through the air. They are telepathic, have a photographic memory. They're very courageous, dexterous hands and feet, like a human, but they can walk on all fours, run, or fly through the air. So this being, this master teacher, is introducing him to this. This is a doorway to the fifth dimension above the void known to certain esoteric groups. This is the land masses that have come up after the poles flipped on Earth 100,000 years ago, destroying Lemuria, a colony continent of Atlantis, except for a volcanic island, which became popular much later in history. And they were mourning the loss of all the people until they're introduced to this being. And this looks like a sphere, a white core, and different teardrop-shaped layers in concentric circles through the spectrum to a golden exterior. So this is what you look like that isn't one of these. This is a manifestation of a higher source energy, much bigger than they are. But with these beings here, he's introducing them to this. They don't know at this point, over 100,000 years ago, is that they have one of these hovering above their heads. This master teacher is beginning to teach them about that. So they're introducing them to energy and consciousness far above the lower worlds of time and space. And then this deals with extraterrestrial involvement with Earth and our solar system way back then, Galactic Alliance, etc. Comes forward to present time and then pretty much connects to this. So it will help you. This book has many 30 illustrations in it of characters and scenes. Very, very well done. So that you have a visual to work with as well. Can't see what I'm seeing. Now that's on the backside of Mount Shasta, Northern California. You'll figure out what that is as you explore this book. This is the creature named Ed I showed you on the front cover. Quite cute. Strong arms and legs. His tail glows from the root to the tip like bright crystal opal in sunlight. Silica-based DNA, not carbon. Big bulbous blue eyes, has vocal cords, he's telepathic, has a photographic memory, he can fly through the air, and he's courageous and manifests all of the best qualities of a human being. This little guy, if he befriended you and could save your life and die for you, he would. But he's not human, and he's a master teacher. This guy, he's not human. So you'll find this very helpful when you go through this book. I'll give the address of my website. The main website where the books, the links to the proper online retailers are listed, so you don't have to hunt for them to get trade paperbacks or ebooks. And if I don't do that with Amazon or ebooks or Barnes and Noble or other ways to get these books, then people around the world could never get them. Shipping costs across the United States or to other countries is prohibitive. So print on demand facilities will print books, this book, same color, everything. Say if somebody orders it in France, they're going to go to Amazon.fr or something like that. And then they can get the books and printed locally and shipped to them. So that's how that works. And ebooks are just a digital download, so you can get either or both. And you'll find that available at the site. You'll find videos, short videos that are really moving on the site that are free. There's no charge. And if you work with the Hue, you're going to find when you click on a link there, it's called About Scott-HU. You'll go and find 2 recordings of my voice sending out the U in 3-part harmony. One of them is continuously looped, so it's a constant sound for about 24 minutes. There is a 3rd tone running through the center of that sound. If you pay attention, you'll hear it. I didn't put it in the recording. That came from a friend, an off-world friend named Ambassador Terrellian. So it's very helpful. And if you get in trouble, put that on, go into it, get absorbent until all your pain and whatever your confusion is turned off. It will help you. I'll leave everybody with that.
Okay, thank you, Scott, and thank you everyone for watching. So we see you again next time.
See you next time. Oh, and pleasant dreams.
Okay, thank you.